of the Empire State. From the financial and entertainment epicenter of New York City to the sleeping and empty small cities and towns of upstate, which once bustled with manufacturing, mining, and farming. We all know from inspiration, history, and nature, we deserve a return to the success and growth of generations past, a birthright being squandered by corruption in Albany, and the depredations of an insecure, scheming mountebank posing as governor, who loathes both us and himself. As liberty beckoned to enslaved peoples behind the Iron Curtain via American broadcasts after World War II, we now say, believe, rise, and join us. Welcome to Radio Free New York.
Hey guys, welcome to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister, and I've got Bob Savage here with me.
Well, if it's Monday, this must be Radio Free New York.
Yeah, it is Monday. And normally on Mondays, I would talk about coronavirus numbers. I'm just ignoring it at this point.
Well, first of all, the numbers are fading into irrelevancy anyway. So, yeah, I mean, a worthy cause up until recently because it illustrates how ridiculous the numbers are, which I think is your point, right, Andrew? Not to put words in your mouth, but we got bigger fish to fry today.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. I mean, at this point, the numbers are low. Cuomo's still doing his press conferences and really putting his foot in his mouth at this point. I think he's trying to walk back on some things, deflect on others. Before I jumped on the show, I was listening to his live stream, and he was talking about Sandy Hook and passing gun legislation and all this other stuff that clearly has nothing to do with coronavirus. And so I'm getting the feeling they're thinking that some things are a little more pressing than coronavirus at this point.
Now, let me understand this. So we had historic looting on a grand scale dating back to, for comparison purposes, the 1960s. We have Antifa, Minneapolis police demonstrations even taking place in London. So clearly this is an, essentially planned and organized thing to some degree. And Andrew wants to talk about Sandy Hook. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. No, I don't get it. But, the thing that I really don't know why nobody's talking about is the murder hornets. I mean, what happened to the murder hornets? Were they just a 1 week issue here and now they don't exist anymore?
Yep. Something like that. But first of all, it's been proven that the murder hornets aren't going anywhere. The Washington State authorities there, whatever the bug police are successfully eradicating them. So I don't think that we have to worry about, the killer bees like we had in the 1970s.
Yeah, there you go. But I will tell you, I mean, it's still 2020. We're just barely halfway there. I'm holding out for the zombie apocalypse in the fall. I think there's an opportunity for that.
Well, where the zombie apocalypse is going on right now, you saw it all this weekend. It's just kind of marketed differently. But what you had in most cities is the peaceful protesters, and I think to a large degree there are a number of those in almost every city, very rapidly co-opted by imported hireling thugs. Who are highly trained and well-financed and extremely well-equipped. These people are extremely manipulative, and they're very good at whipping a crowd into doing what they want them to do. And so I think you get a lot of the hollow-chested, suburban white kids that really think that this is really thrilling to go downtown and throw rocks and bottles and generally agitate. And all of a sudden they get moved, to the next rung of violence by these agitators, and pretty soon they're involved in it up to their necks. So while, yes, it may be a minority of Antifa types who are instigating and inciting all this violence in cities, they're whipping up the locals, and that's definitely contributing. I think, Andrew, I mean, this is something that we can discuss, but I think we need to have domestic terrorism investigations into these organizations.
Yeah, and I suspect that's probably already happening. And I believe it's probably been happening before this incident happened. but I suspect now it's probably moved up in priority. Would be my guess. But I do want to circle back to things looking like the zombie apocalypse just real quick, because you guys know that I like holding the media accountable. And wouldn't you know, one of our favorite outlets, MSNBC.
Oh yeah.
Um, I don't know if you heard about this or not, Bob. I actually watched it myself this morning to make sure that this actually happened. MSNBC, they were reporting fires, and I think it was in Philadelphia, if I recall. Um, and they have this footage of the skyline, and there's smoke and buildings that have fire and like obvious destruction as they're like voiceover reading, about what happened the night before. Turns out that footage was fake.
Was it from a zombie apocalypse movie?
It was from World War Z,
Oh my
zombie
gosh.
apocalypse movie.
Oh
Yep,
no.
yep, yep. So you can go to YouTube, you can search World War Z trailer, watch the trailer. I think it's in like the opening 15 seconds of the trailer, and then compare it to what MSNBC put up. It is the same footage.
So that's kind of like the I guess it was the iceberg footage or whatever that was in Al Gore's. What was the name of his dopey film? What was it called?
Oh, I don't know.
Inconvenient
See, I'm
Truth.
bad with videos.
Inconvenient Truth. That was lifted wholesale out of the sci-fi thriller from 10 years ago called The Day After Tomorrow, I think it was, where there's
Yeah.
cataclysmic weather stuff that happened. I actually saw the film. I only have dim memories of it. But, you had skyscrapers in New York being knocked down by tidal waves and all that stuff. And so somehow some of that footage found its way into an Inconvenient Truth, the magnum opus from Al Gore.
Yeah, and this thing, I think this is really important because I think that we might have something that everybody can agree on. And I know I'm really stepping out on a limb here saying that, but I think that we can all agree that there's some serious issues going on.
You think?
Not just locally, but across our country. I think that left, right, extreme left, extreme right, and everybody in the middle can admit right now that, hey, there's some serious stuff going on. We don't need the media to make up stuff, use stock footage, take footage from videos to try to make things look even worse.
Yeah, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, why? I know why. They're selling advertisement, but seriously, like, there's got to be some ethics where they go, you know what? Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do this.
Yeah, I mean, this is bigger than the special effects in the film The Day After Tomorrow, which was largely dry ice and styrofoam coated with frozen stuff. This is, the media is a symptom. It's not a cause of all of this. Well, maybe a contributing cause, but it's not the underlying cause. We have, ladies and gentlemen, there really is a quiet civil war going on in the United States these days. We have, first of all, we have two factions, and to broadly describe them, one is the productive, sector of society who believes in right and wrong, and supports the former over the latter, and wants law and order, and wants prosperity, and wants a better life for their kids and their grandkids down the line, and is in favor of peace and prosperity, jobs for people, so that we can, resume the standard of living that Americans enjoyed before the fake coronavirus epidemic was foisted upon us. On the other hand, what we have is we have a faction of society who just wants to tear everything down. They're nihilists, if you will. They want to destroy society as it currently exists and everything that society produces, everything that it represents, so that they can build some new utopian fantasy on the ashes of what used to be. And that's manifesting itself in everything that's happening. First of all, you see it in the coronavirus fake pandemic or hyped pandemic. I'm not, diminishing the people who were victims of this infection. I think it's a bad case of the flu, and unfortunately, the flu kills 40 to 60,000 people every year, and that's to be deplored as well. But it's manifested in that. It's manifested in the incredible cruelty of the Minnesota cop killing somebody who didn't deserve to die, and then the parlaying of that into violent, destructive behavior that's going to ruin cities across the U.S. for decades to come, Andrew.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that we're in a situation where the media is definitely, we've talked for years about the media creating a divide amongst the people, and not maybe not creating, definitely contributing and throwing gas on the fire. Now we have this situation where the gas is on the fire. I mean, we literally have cars flipped over, cars burnt, windows broken, stores destroyed, people's personal property stolen from. Now is the time, I think, for the media to go, you know what? Maybe we should step up. Maybe we should do the right thing. Let's be ethical in this situation, because now's the time for some truth and honesty, guys. This is what we need. All right, guys, you're listening to Radio Free New York. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a moment. I want to talk about some systemic issues. I want to talk about the riots in Rochester. We've got a lot to cover today. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
College Assistance Plus has worked with thousands of families, saving them millions of dollars. It can be stressful choosing the right college, but we're here to help. CA Plus will guide you from college visits to college graduation and through every step in between. Each student and family situation is different, and we work to accommodate those specific needs. Call today for a free family meeting, 585-582-1846, or visit collegeassistanceplus.com for more information. College is expensive. College Assistance Plus can help.
A reminder from Abate Monroe County. American bikers aim toward education. Distracted driving is dangerous, so pull over and eat. Don't try to read your mail and newspaper, and stay off your cell phone. Make a mental note to be more alert, making it a habit to expect the unexpected. Remember to look twice. Save a life. Train yourself to watch for motorcycles which are harder to see. Join Abate, and your family will be protected with a free $4,000 accident policy. Ride safe. Ride free. Ride often. Abate. If you ride with us. Google Abate Monroe County.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to Simple Tech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that Simple Tech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at Simple Tech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at Simple Tech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I want to welcome you guys to the show. If you're listening on the radio, maybe you're listening on the podcast, maybe you're listening on the live stream. There's a bunch of you guys commenting in the live stream. I appreciate that. Thank you guys for the support. Want to give a couple of you guys a shout out. Welcome to the show, Rod, Michael, Ryan, Matthew, Dan, Garrett, Rick, Samantha, and another Matthew. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here and tuning in. I really want to talk about an issue that I think is being buried by the message of the violence. And this issue, I think, is coming up more and more. This issue has been present for a very long time. And I don't think that it's been emphasized and discussed as much as necessary. And that is the problem with the way our system is set up that allows for things like George Floyd's death. And I'm not talking about, and I want to specify before I say this, I can't guarantee you that these changes would have prevented his death. But I do believe that our system is set up in a way right now where there's really 2, maybe 3 classes of citizens. And that is us, people like you and I who are here going about our day-to-day lives. And then we have this kind of greater class or higher authority class, which is the politicians who get to make the rules and the laws that we have to live by, and the police officers who enforce them, or the law enforcement officers that enforce them. And don't hear this as being anti-law enforcement, because that is not at all what this conversation is. What I want to emphasize is that law enforcement, politicians, and also people that have significant sums of money tend to be above the law. And sometimes that's by blatant policy. Look at something like the SAFE Act. The SAFE Act literally restricts your constitutional rights here in New York, but there is an exemption for law enforcement. And I'm not saying that that's law enforcement's fault, and I'm not blaming them for that. The politicians put that in place, but they are now given additional privileges and liberties above the rest of us. And when an officer gets pulled over for speeding, whether they're on duty or not, they're not getting a ticket. They're allowed certain exemptions, and some of this is written into law, by the way. I mean, police officers, it's my understanding that they are allowed to use their phone while driving, for example. Whereas, Bob, if that were you or I, we're going to get a ticket unless somebody's feeling very friendly and generous that morning or afternoon or evening or whatever and decides to let us go.
Yeah, there's no question that there's a divide between folks who are in the private sector and who are working for a living, and in some cases, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush here, but in some cases, people who are they're members of the public sector. There's different rules that seem to apply to them, and increasingly it seems to be going that way. Let me give you an example of what we're talking about here. This is in the context of the coronavirus. So Monroe County, New York, this is where our flagship station, Rochester, WYSL is. County employees are fighting like cats in a sack over hazard pay. Okay? 4,200 employees in the county of Monroe, which is mind-boggling in and of itself.
That's a lot.
4,200 county employees. 2,500 are receiving hazard pay for working for the past 3 months. This is all funded by a $125 million handout from the feds. So here's government giving other government sectors a great big juicy. Now, a lot of you folks are out of work. You've been cut back in hours, or you're completely out of work. You're trying to get New York to disgorge some unemployment funds, which New York has been totally chaotic with that. Nobody thinks of just don't use the $125 million, hand it back to the feds. It's like, use it or lose it, right? And managers, quote unquote, at the county are being given 3 additional weeks of vacation on the premise. They've worked extraordinarily hard the last few months from their kitchen tables and recliners. All of this approved by the county legislature for approval. So while the private sector is like the forgotten stepchildren, government bureaucrats are handing out to their types money just like by the bucket load. And it's our money, ladies and gentlemen. If that doesn't infuriate you, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and this is the exact stuff I'm talking about. It goes through every step of society. There's this separate class that government has created. It's now integrated into our system, into our society, created by government. And the laws and the rules do not apply equally. And I think that this is so important to talk about and for people to think about, because this is why violence is starting to happen. This is why people are just saying they've had enough. I look at like the Second Amendment community, who has been beaten down time and time again, and who has assembled in Albany in tens of thousands of people peacefully doing things the quote unquote the right way, and they haven't seen progress. And people have become extremely fed up. And I'm not saying this justifies violence. This doesn't justify destruction of property. I just want us to talk about the fact that law enforcement and politicians and people with a lot of money, there's this other class of society. And I'm not saying that it's their fault. This is just how our system is right now. They get to play by different rules. And by playing by those different rules, other people in society are seeing this and saying, wow, I could never get away with that.
That's right.
I would never be allowed to do this. And a very good local example that will fire all of you up, I think, when you hear this name, Judge Estacio. Judge Estacio was a judge. She presided over DWI cases and sentenced people for DWI cases.
City court.
In city court, yep, in Rochester. And then got a DWI. And then got another one. And stacked stuff on. And every step of the way seemed to be able to just bypass things and get away with things and continue to evade the types of punishments that would have rained down on the rest of us. Financially, personally, physically. Ultimately, she did time in jail, but I think it was like 180 days. I mean, she up and left the country, and nobody even knew. She didn't show up to work, and nobody even knew. She was collecting a salary of over 6 figures. And what was she doing with it? She was floating around, not even doing her job, and it was a taxpayer's salary. So these are the things that I think all of us, the regular everyday American, are sitting here and feeling in one part of our life or another. It could be Second Amendment issues. It could be tax issues. It could be some law, some regulation, something that you sit there and you are bearing the burden and the weight of the law, and you look in the other direction and you see others that are getting by without it. And I think that is really putting people on edge. Then bring in coronavirus. Now people are told they have to stay home. They're not allowed to work. They're not allowed to be productive. They can't see their family. They can't see their friends. These things aren't allowed.
They can't earn a living.
Yeah, they can't earn a living. But then they turn around and see governments giving themselves raises and saying, well, some people can work. Even those people are working in a significantly more hazardous, dangerous, and higher chance of infection than what these other people were. It's totally unbalanced.
I'm sitting here watching right now. I mean, the governor Headcase's daily, excruciating press conferences on. He's got a deaf interpreter on there. He's got his personal secretary, Melissa somebody, on one side. He's got Howard Zucker, who's the state, health czar, on the other side. Hey, these people take any pay cuts the last 3 months?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Not that I'm aware of.
No, what they're doing is they're voting big money for other government cronies. It's like, look I got this big pot of money here. Let me make sure you get yours, and then make sure all you government union people vote for us, so that we can keep the gravy train coming.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, guys, I've set the stage for the conversation we're going to have next. We're going to talk about the riots that happened in Rochester yesterday, over the weekend. And I hope you guys participate in the discussion. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
the voice of liberty. We're WYSL1040.com, 92.1 FM and 1040 AM WYSL, Avon, Rochester.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see increasing clouds. Could be a shower towards morning, a touch milder. We'll stay in the 50s tonight. On Tuesday, kind of cloudy, in the 60s, couple of showers, but not a washout. On Wednesday, could be some afternoon showers and thunderstorms, back into the 70s. Some sunshine and warmer weather. Thursday and Friday, closer to 80 degrees. I'm Rich Canilia, WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hey, grab a pen. I'm going to give you a phone number I hope you never have to call. The number for attorney Christopher Johnson. Chris handles car and motorcycle accident cases and DWIs and serious personal injury cases. So if there's an accident or other incident, this is the number you want in your glove compartment. Ready? Here's the number, 585-415-3803. 415-3803. With this number in hand, you'll have on your side experience, individual attention to your case, and integrity, as opposed to a supposed no-fee guarantee. No attorney charges a fee until you win. Integrity is way more important than learning a lawyer calls his mom every day, or that he played Twister as a kid, or watching glammed-up actors playing ex-clients bragging about their million-dollar settlements. Just remember the number for Christopher Johnson, attorney we hope you never have to call. 585-415-3803. Stay safe, be healthy, drive sober. Christopher Johnson, attorney, personal injury, car or motorcycle accidents, DWI defense, good to know.
As life gets back to normal and we start heading back to work, don't leave your leftover stash of toilet paper exposed to rodents. Send them packing the most humane way with Plug-in Pest Free. G'day, I'm Scott from Plug-in Pest Free, the electromagnetic device that utilises the active wiring in your home or business to keep rodents and pests away. 100% chemical free and environmentally friendly. Just plug it in. It's that simple. My strongest performer, the Pro unit, is good for most homes and small businesses up to 4,000 square feet. Now that's fair income. Is your home or business protected? If not, order yours today at gopestfree.com. Use promo code PEST20 for 20% off. That's gopestfree.com, promo code PEST20. Gopestfree.com, promo code PEST20. Don't spray and regret. Plug in and forget.
Lingerie, DVDs, adult toys, incense, water pipes, magazines, Show World, Mount Read, Henrietta, Waterloo. Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8, Sunday noon to 8, 1,000 adult products, 600 packaged dainties connected to your phone. All you need to do is pick it up, call on the phone and pick it up, place your order, come on over, pull up, drive up, pick up, Show World.
Our community is strong. Even when we can't be together, we stand together as families, neighbors, and local businesses helping each other. As an essential business and community partner, Tompkins is here for you with online and mobile banking, programs to help our lending customers, and peace of mind, knowing that our focus is you. We're here to help you stay strong, get through this, and rebuild. For our customers and for our community, Tompkins Bank of Castile is here.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
FM Talk
for breaking news.
Right now, a police investigation is underway in this city.
Police are still working to determine exactly what happened here tonight.
For weather where you live.
A nice chance for some sunshine.
For investigative reports.
We're about to show you the most unique crime prevention story we've ever done.
Who's going to know more about breaking into homes than the people who actually did it?
Watch News 10 NBC. It's where WYSL listeners get their news.
The Livingston County Reproductive Health Center offers free or low-cost confidential health care for adults and teens. The Reproductive Health Center can help you prevent or plan a pregnancy, provide STD testing, and more. Day and evening appointments available. Call 585-243-7540 today.
You're listening to Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. And there's just a lot to talk about, but before I do, I want to welcome you guys to the show. I see a few more people have popped in the live stream. We've got John, Chase, and Birds. Guys, welcome to the show, and thank you guys for listening on the podcast, on air. I definitely appreciate your guys' comments, your feedback, your call-ins. I want to talk about Rochester, and not just Rochester, but Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Manhattan, and cities all across the country, and talk about what happened. And I think many of us know what happened, but let's break it down just a little bit. I think it's really important to first say that there were clearly people who decided they wanted to take away from the message. What happened with George Floyd was totally unacceptable, totally wrong, and should have never happened. And the violence that broke out, and people damaging and destroying property, people stealing property, is just going to escalate in the media above the message of the changes that we need to see in society and the changes that we need to see in our system. This idea that the system has created, two or more classes in our society, those who have to follow the rules, which is people like you and I, versus those who write the rules and write in exemptions for themselves and their buddies. And I think that's the message we should be seeing right now. But instead, we're seeing buildings on fire. We're seeing cars on fire. We're seeing cars flipped. We're seeing theft of personal property. And I would maybe say that we as a society could maybe have been open to damage of property if it was property of the state, if it was property of those who were actually bringing these grievances against people. I think more people, I'm not saying that it's right, by the way. I want to make sure that's really clear. I'm not saying that's right or moral, but what I am saying is people who maybe don't fully understand the frustration, the people sitting on their couch, watching the television, sitting at their desk, scrolling on their phone, who maybe don't fully understand what's going on. And I believe there are a lot of people like that. Unfortunately, that's just the case. What they're seeing on the media is torched buildings and cars, and they're not hearing the message of we need to see change. I think if it was government buildings, they would go, oh, wait, why is it that they left alone all the stores? They didn't steal the TVs or the shoes or whatever it may be. But they attacked a government building. Why? And maybe starting that question. And once again, please, I'm not condoning anybody go damage property, and I'm definitely not saying go, damage government property. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that people took advantage of the situation, and it took away from, I think, what people wanted to accomplish over the weekend.
I'm somewhat at a loss to understand what somebody was trying to accomplish, anybody was trying to accomplish over the weekend. I think that there's a universal sentiment. I can't imagine anybody out there defending the actions of the Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd. I just
there's people out there, Bob. I
well,
hate to say it. I
in the
have
tiny minority,
people
though.
attacking me over it.
Yeah, I understand. But I think in the tiny minority, because that's, first of all, it just needs to be said that that's not police work. No policeman is trained to kneel on somebody's neck. When you have somebody on the ground, their arms are behind them, they're subdued, they're under control. They're cuffed, they're down, especially when there's 4 officers standing around. That guy's not going anywhere. He's not going to do anything. So it was just a completely wanton act of violence. But I don't want to dwell on that. That's not the point. I think that the roots of the violence and the looting in Rochester are very deep, and they go back decades. As a matter of fact, earlier today, I did a recorded interview with Charlie Schiano, former city and county legislator, who was a member of a military group that addressed the 1964 riots. And the same vectors are still present in society today that were present 60 years ago. And that is lack of economic opportunity. What you see across the United States is city after city run over and over again by mostly Democrat administrations whose disastrous economic policies over the last 50, 60 years have chased jobs, opportunity, and prosperity out of these cities to other locations. So you have people who can't earn a living, and you have people who have no place to work, and their standard of living is continually on the decline. And the far more confiscatory taxation and economic policies are foreclosing any possible change in the foreseeable future. So you have a number of people who are desperate. They've got nothing. They're never going to have anything. This is why they turn to drugs, drug dealing, crime as a means of trying to survive. And those people, just they see what happened, and they get egged on by Antifa agitators who know exactly the buttons to push. They're highly trained, extremely manipulative, and that's what causes all this stuff to erupt. And it's no accident that all of the, are you kidding me? Do you really seriously think that violent looting, violence, riots, just spontaneously break out in a number of U.S. cities at the same time on the same weekend? No, it's coordinated. Orders are being given. This organization and the people who follow it and are associated with it need to be charged under domestic terrorism laws. And I guarantee you that the sunken-chested twerps that come in, that hang out, that populate Starbucks or whatever, who thought it would be really fun to come down to downtown Rochester and throw some bottles at cops and then get caught up in the violence, if a couple of those get chucked in a federal penitentiary for 20 years, all of a sudden the fun's not so much fun anymore.
No, I think that once people feel the consequences of their actions, they certainly feel differently about their actions. It sounds like we've got a caller on the line.
Hey, JTO's on the line. John the Optimist. I got to ask you, what are you doing now that Matthews doesn't do his show anymore?
I'm in withdrawal.
You're unemployed too.
I'm in withdrawal.
It's a sad thing. You want to do a sports show on WYSL?
I'll think about it.
All right, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Anyway, that's not what you called about.
Yeah. Listen, hey Andrew, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for calling.
I just want to put my 2 cents in. Number one, I could not believe the atrocity of George Floyd's death. That was so hard to watch, and I was getting sick to my stomach watching it. It was just horrendous. I've never seen anything like it before. But having said that, one of the things that I don't think a lot of people think about is this. Everybody assumes the killing was done for racial reasons, that this guy was a racist.
Yeah, no evidence of that.
And I'm thinking, in fact, I talked to a conservative talk show host over the weekend out of Buffalo, and I brought up the same point. And he says, well, there were 17 incidents of misbehavior. And I said, well, what were the incidents? Were they against African Americans? And he didn't know. So he made the assumption, and this is somebody who leans right, he made the assumption that this guy is a racist. I brought up the point of this. I've seen in my many years, I've seen many incidents over the years of excessive police force on whites. And it's just ironic to me that this guy, all of a sudden, the guy definitely should be charged, maybe more than third degree. I guess he's being charged with third-degree murder
and manslaughter. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be worse, and he deserves it. But the racial end part of it, I don't see that at this point. There might be evidence that comes out, and it might be probable that it does come out that way. But at this point, I just think it's blown out of proportion. And in the media overall, not only in this situation, but the media especially over the last 5 or 10 years, I believe are race baiters. They are portraying racism in this country to a level which I think is exaggerated right now. And the people are believing it, and then of course this lighted the fire, literally lighted the fire, this latest case with George Floyd. So
yeah, it could be a contributing factor.
So it bothers me that this happens, and look what it did. I was listening to Jim Quinn this morning, and he brought up the incident on Monroe Avenue where this little lady got the hell beat out of her by 3 or 4 rioters.
Yeah, 24 years old.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I just looked at it about an hour ago. I was incensed by seeing that. In fact, I think Jim is putting $1,000 for a reward to try to find the culprits, and I think I may contribute to that. That was just unbelievable violence and incensed. In fact, what's happening, I think, is there's somebody like me. I consider myself a liberal in a lot of respects, especially when I was younger. But I've always been a liberal in regards to race. And I'll tell you, this violence being perpetrated on innocent people and innocent property, it's going to be a backlash. It's going to hurt the causes of racial injustice.
No question about it. John the Optimist, thanks for calling into Radio Free New York. Andrew, I'll let you take it out to break.
Yep, guys, thank you so much. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to carry on this discussion. We'll be back in a moment on Radio Free New York.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Aircraft Environmental Systems proudly supports Radio Free New York. Rochester-based leaders in climate simulation chambers for America's R&D laboratories. We're experts in troubleshooting, calibrations, custom designs, and consulting for more than 40 years. Industry pioneers, we created the first ever fleet of temperature, humidity, and altitude test chambers available to rent coast to coast. Trained and trusted by environmental chamber manufacturers, we are ACES. Find us at acesinc.com.
It's time to reopen Livingston County. We're a group of citizens advocating an immediate end to so-called pause orders, threatening the livelihoods of local business owners and free choice for consumers. We believe all businesses are essential and all workers are essential workers. We urge everyone to support your local small business and small business owners to open back up immediately. Permanent economic losses are far more dangerous than the hyped COVID scare. Reopen Livingston, a group of your concerned neighbors and citizens proud of our freedoms and our Constitution.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Radio Free New York.
All right, welcome back to Radio Free New York. I'm your host, Andrew Hollister. I do want to clarify something because over break, I checked my phone. I saw a text message from somebody saying, "Hey, Andrew, are you advocating for the destruction of public property?" No, please don't think that that's what I'm saying. What I want to clarify on this is, if people are out protesting a cause and that cause is directed at they are upset with the government, but then throughout that protest, private property that's not related to the government is what's being damaged, I see a disconnect there. And I think many other people see a disconnect there as well. I'm not saying anybody should go out and damage anybody's property, but I think that if damage was happening and it was government property, people would at least think that was in line with their messaging. Not saying it's right. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not advocating for it. But it would be more in line with what was being protested.
You mean more understandable, Andrew? Is that what you're saying?
More understandable. I think it would just click a little bit more for people. For example, I saw pictures of police cars flipped over. And yeah, that made me feel terrible that was happening. But in my mind, I saw it and thought, they are upset at the police. It's not even the same police. It's not even the same state. But their anger was directed towards the police. That seemed in line with their anger. Not saying it's justified, just saying it happened. It was a course of action.
Yeah, I think that there's a...
But,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
But you see the shoe store being smashed up and people stealing shoes. And you go, okay, what does the shoe store have to do with this? Not saying that what they did to the police cars was right, but you look at the shoe store and you really can't see any link there. It's a private entity, totally separate. You know, it just very much detracts much further from the cause and the message.
I think that you have to go back here and cast kind of a wider net, if you will. Let's go back to let's assume for a moment, okay, an argument, and I don't ascribe to this, by the way, that there is a line, a causation line between the violence that led to the death of the gentleman in Minneapolis and the violence and the rioting and the looting. I don't believe that's true for a minute, by the way, because I think, again, the wheels of justice are swiftly turning, frankly, against the police officer who perpetrated that outrage in Minneapolis. And so I think people can see that justice is in the process of being done. I would be very surprised if the other three officers are not similarly charged, maybe not with murder, but with being accomplices, or at the very least, gross incompetence, official misconduct, or whatever. And they have all been fired. So there has been, appropriate and swift justice meted out, and we'll see where that all ends up. And that is one of the foundation stones of society. But I think the time has come for all of us to not settle for anything less than a response to our better angels, which is to say that we don't subscribe to the moral bankruptcy of wanton destruction of things of value in our society. Our public facilities, our private facilities, private businesses, private individuals, like the couple who were attacked on Monroe Avenue at Monroe Fire Equipment, Rochester Fire Equipment, excuse me, and so forth. I think that we have to not tolerate that in an ordered society under any circumstances, because it is 100% destructive. You turn the clock back again. I did an interview earlier today on the downtown Rochester riots from 1964 on another program, which will air on this station. That neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen, has still not recovered 60 years later. And the same thing is going to be true of downtown Rochester. How many businesses are there in downtown Rochester? 6?
Yeah, there's already very few to begin with.
Do you think those businesses, you're a business owner. You're a businessman who wants to turn a profit, okay? Are you going to invest in downtown Rochester? Not bloody likely, because at any moment, some news event can take place in a completely distant location and produce this kind of reaction. And your livelihood is gone. And you'll never get it back. So we can't tolerate this in our city. And the people who perpetrated this kind of stuff need to be brought to swift justice, and they need to go along for a very, very long time. And we can't have orders coming from Adam Bello, the county executive, or from Todd Baxter, the sheriff, or from the police chief, LaRon Singletary, saying it's okay, let them turn over police cars. No, it's not okay. Let them destroy? No. You confront that kind of violence and you stop it.
And in the long run, it costs us untold amount of money and tax dollars. But one thing I do want to bring up before we end the show, because we are coming pretty close to the end here, is I do want to talk about the fact that, I truly believe that people planned the violence. That people, not just in Rochester, but in Buffalo and Syracuse and Albany and in other cities across our country, seized this moment knowing people were high on emotion and people came to be peaceful. And I think people came with very bad, ill intentions and purposely stirred this pot, got people riled up, pushed the violence, and helped make it happen. I really believe that.
Yes, Antifa needs to be thoroughly investigated, and I hope Bill Barr is doing that, and needs to be investigated and needs to be prosecuted. I believe that this is funded by, one worlder anti-American forces. George Soros, I'm looking at you. I think that you're definitely a factor in all of this, but he is not alone. He's not alone. There's a lot of people out there who have stakes in what happens in America and not so much in America as a country and as a functioning society. And that needs to stop. We all need to wake up. We need to stop electing nitwits and weak people and people who are opportunistic. And we need to find statesmen to lead us, folks. And I'm not pretending for a minute that this is easy. But, if you elect bad people, well, look at what's happened in New York. That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I've got some good news. Kevin was actually present at the peaceful portion of the protest yesterday. He went there, checked it out. He showed up, and we'll have an opportunity to talk with him tomorrow and get his firsthand, without the media there to manipulate the audio, manipulate the images, put up fake stock footage. Kevin will be able to tell us what he saw, because Kevin has some pretty interesting insights as to who was there, who was doing what, and what he thinks really sparked everything. So, guys, definitely tune in. Same time, same place tomorrow. We're going to talk with Kevin about that. You're listening to Radio Free New York. Thank you, guys. I'll see you then.